Hello, everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation. And my guest today is Erica Carrico. Gosh, Carrico, Portuguese. She is an award winning life purpose and business coach for women who are ready to transform their lives by creating six and seven figures soul aligned businesses. I love that. And I mentioned that off record. And I have been, since I came across your work, that really caught my attention. The idea of purpose finding and living our purpose. And then living this, doing work that it kind of benefits everyone. That's
Yeah.
really what it comes down to, basically, when it comes to the soul, from my perspective. But talk to me for a moment about how you became a coach. What inspired you to be who you are today, Eric?
Yeah. Oh, I love that question. Well, I think I was always one of those people that I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I was here to make a difference in the world. And I knew that I was here to help and be of service in some way. And I always struggled to stay in a job. I bounced from job to job and I wanted to travel. I wanted to have fun experiences. I wanted to work in a ski town. I couldn't imagine that my soul came to this planet to slave away in a 9 to 5 in order to pay the bills. Like I literally could never wrap my head around that. And life happens and you get married and you have kids and it's like you have to be quote unquote responsible, right? And so I knew that I needed to get a job and earn money, and I fell into the corporate world. And I had the typical corporate burnout story where after a few years of earning millions of dollars for a company that has millions of dollars, realizing that my life has no point, I'm not doing anything that I feel that I'm here to do, and I really hit a wall of burnout and depression and anxiety. And I actually, this was back in 2009, and I saw a life coach, and through that process I realized that I needed to quit my job. There was a lot that needed to happen. I left Australia. I was living in Australia at the time. I left to do a year-long backpacking trip around the world, and a lot changed on that trip. But sort of long story short, I ended up a few years after that receiving a cancer diagnosis when I was 36. And I was breastfeeding a baby. I had a toddler. My marriage was falling apart. I was working in the not-for-profit industry, and it really came down to I had to come to terms, I suppose, that I could die and I might not be here. And I really looked at my life and I saw that I hadn't achieved anything that I really wanted to achieve. I've done a lot of fun things, but I knew that I was here to share my own divine gifts with the world. I knew I had my own medicine inside of me that I was meant to share with the world, and I wasn't doing that. And I think it was literally killing me. Like my body just, God or the divine or the universe was like, wake up, you're not going to listen to us. So finally, I'm going to knock you over the head with a 2x4, and until you listen. And that was really the turning point for me. I went and got my life coaching certification, and I left my marriage and moved states. And I really was on a journey, I suppose. Well, it's been the last 8 years now of letting go of everything in my life that does not serve me and does not feel aligned with my soul, and truly building it up with everything that does.
But it seems like you've been always this way, connected to your soul, right? You just mentioned that you always felt like we are not here to just be confined with a specific job or doing limiting things. So, do you always, in a way, was that easier for you to transition to kind of make these big changes from from the challenges you had to just the transformations that you made, or it was as challenging as it is for most of us?
I think it was, I would say, I guess I can only speak to my own experience, but it was not an easy transition. I think it was many, many years of dark night of the soul and many years of feeling like I was at rock bottom. And I feel personally like I've been through so much, I guess, trauma in my life, but I've turned that into something good. And I've turned that into really it being a part of my work, and that my pain being a part of my medicine, and really knowing that the things that I have gone through in my life, I use them now and they really help me to be able to serve my clients on a deeper level. And so I do feel like it's been hard and a challenge, and I and yeah, I don't think it's been easy at all, but I think we can choose our own path, and we can decide to spiral and dwell and play the victim, or we can use it for good, and I just choose to use it for good.
You talked about self love. That's one of the things that caught my attention. So, reading your story, so what do you suggest these days, for especially for women? How do we get there, and how do we know when we are there?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if we're ever there. I mean, I can tell you, it actually took I think as women, we're so hard on ourselves, and yeah, so critical. And I look back to, and I actually feel really sad at how I treated myself and my body for the first probably 30 years of my life. And it wasn't actually through until I had my cancer diagnosis that I learned that we do need to have a relationship with ourselves, and we do need to love ourselves, and the thoughts that we think and how we treat ourselves and how we talk to ourselves really truly matters. And I think, before my cancer, I was so hard on myself, and I was so consumed with, my weight and how I looked. And it was just, and being perfect in the world. And it was just a really disconnected way to live. And through cancer, I really learned that we have to love ourselves down to this cellular level. And I think that was the biggest lesson I took from that, was really to look at my body and appreciate how magical it actually is, and how amazing it is that our heart just beats, and that our mind just thinks, and that we can birth these babies, and that we can walk around without thinking. And, I mean, it's just truly miraculous. And I had to really take a journey to learn to love myself and appreciate myself, in order to heal.
Wow. Wow. It sounds very spiritual the way you speak. Even using the example of walking without thinking, like appreciating life for what it is, the state of gratitude. Um, what is the soul? I would love to, I wanted to ask you that question. How do you define what the soul is, and how did you come across these profound spiritual teachings?
Oh, I love this. I still play with this. I still wonder sometimes what the difference is between soul and spirit. I've heard that. Yeah, I know. I still wonder. I definitely feel, though, I guess the one thing that I do feel very certain about is that we are souls here on this earth having a human journey, and not the other way around. So yeah, I guess I feel like, our body is kind of a vessel for what our soul is here to do. Yeah, is sort of how I look at it.
How would you describe that? So, what's the soul trying to do? If this is the soul, it's something that's not material. It's a spiritual. Not even. Some people say that's energy.
I love this. Okay, well, I personally believe that I think we all have a soul. I think that I do believe in past lives. I do believe that our souls come and we incarnate into experiences and families that are going to help this particular evolution of our soul, right? I think we come here to face certain challenges. I think there's lessons we have to learn. I think there's karmic ties that we have to heal. And I think we choose our human experience, based on what our soul needs at this point of its evolution.
What about the purpose of life? What comes to mind when you hear that question? What's the purpose of the human life, the human experience?
I think there's a lot of reasons that we're here. I guess the way that I look at purpose is, there well, one, I think that our souls are here on purpose to evolve and to heal and almost to course correct, right? So I do feel like, from a soul perspective, that is the purpose of life. But I also feel like we all do have a purpose, and I think we came here as souls to share our love and to share our medicine and our healing with the world. And I think we all came here with divine gifts, that are only ours, and that we have this medicine, our original medicine that we're here to share with the world. And I think that most people get really caught up into living based on societal expectations that they forget that they didn't come here to slave away, right? Like we are here to offer healing to humanity or to the planet or whatever it is in our own way. But I truly do feel like we all came here for a very specific reason. And it's I actually feel like one of the purposes of my life is to help people to actually awaken to their purpose and what are they here for and how can they reconnect back into the soul of themselves and remember why they actually came here in the first place.
Talk to me about the book. I know we talked off record. I didn't know about it. What's
Yeah.
the title? And I know it's coming up April 9th, will be on Amazon. But talk to me about that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's called Awaken Your Purpose, believe it or not. And it's a process that it's a healing process, and it's really called 28 Days to Finding Your Purpose, and it takes you through a process that I've taken thousands of people through in my coaching programs, now in a book. And it's a soulful journey, but also a strategic one as well. So it really takes you through the process of awakening, through the process of remembering who you are and reconnecting back to yourself and getting clear on what your life purpose is. Why are you here? And then for those that want to take it one step further, it actually takes you into a process of figuring out what business or what side hustle or what do you want to do that is in alignment with your purpose, so you can start having an impact in that way as well.
You have many offerings too. I know you host an event. It's coming up April 1st, right, Erica?
Yeah,
Yes,
next
April
week.
1st. Next
Hmm.
week. It's called Soul Business Live, your roadmap to six figures. So when it comes to, I think that's one of the things that I don't push away, of course, the idea of making money and all that. But there's something about the energy of money. I would love to hear from you. Like some people say, it's energetic exchange. That's what really money is. But how do we avoid the pitfall, I think you would say, to get caught up in this making money and then now living this very empty life in a way, just accumulating things and not having what the soul is craving for.
Well, I think you can have both. What I've seen is that in my own life and in the lives of my clients is that when we really do align our work with our purpose, that's when real abundance and money and cash flow starts to come in. It's almost like God or the universe is rewarding us for that, but it just flows so easily when we are in alignment with our purpose. And I think as long as we've stayed true to that, I mean, I've had no money in my life and I've had millions of dollars that I've created now through my business. And it's like you have to constantly be allowing your ego to die and making sure that your soul and your spirit is what's leading the way. Because it's certainly easy to get caught up in the excitement of it if you've never had money before, and the energy of it, and you love it coming in and you love it going out. And yeah, you're constantly having to expand your vessel, your energetic vessel, right? So that you can hold more and be responsible with more and keep more. So yeah, it's been a real learning journey for me, learning how to have money after going, through my entire life without having money. But I think as long as you keep connected to your purpose and you keep connected to source, that leads the way, and the ego can kind of take that back seat.
Is that possible not to have an ego? That's another thing. Or the
Ooh.
ego, it's working, serving the soul. How does it work, Erica?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I think our ego is always there. I think our ego, at least from what I've learned, our ego is always there. And I think it definitely dances with the soul. And I've noticed in my own personal journey, sometimes I have to really recognize when it's leading the way. And there are times where I'm very aware of that and I'm able to almost bypass it. And then there are times in my life, and even recently, there's been a time where my ego just really took over and was driving the way. And I think we know that that's happening when we start to feel a little bit heavy. We start to feel maybe more fear. We start to come from a place, making decisions from a place of like scarcity, fear, lack, as opposed to abundance and love and trust and faith. And so it's catching yourself and recognizing that, and then learning how to yeah, move back into a space of being led by the soul. And for me, sometimes it doesn't happen that easily. And something really detrimental almost has to happen in my life for me to be shaken out of that ego and for that ego to die so that I can really step into the next evolution of myself, I suppose. It's not an easy, fun process. At least I have not experienced that.
But I love that the way you explain how the ego worked, fear and love. So it's very different. And I have heard, you probably heard about A Course in Miracles.
Love,
That
yes,
they,
I have the book
yeah,
sitting right over here.
yeah, I have it too. I have two copies. I had to have,
Hmm.
for some reason, two copies. But yet that just resonated with me wholeheartedly. Love, fear. We come from one or another place. So, how do you define success these days?
Well, that was part of my ego. This was honestly part of my ego death. Yeah, my company grew so fast, and almost my company, it just grew. We had so much attention. We got featured in Forbes, New York Times, and it just really took off, and I got swept away in it. It was like, this is what I've always dreamed of, this is what I've always wanted. And money wasn't a thing. And I bought the mountain house, I bought the $1 million home, I had the horses. It was like, wow. I got to this point where um almost, my something had to stop working in my business, and it did. This marketing strategy that had been working in my business for almost 4 years, all of a sudden just stopped. It just stopped working. But that had to happen for me, as stressful, this was back in September, as stressful as that was. It's like it had to happen for me in order to course correct and really get myself back on track. I had to really remember, it was like, okay, if you're not going to listen and pay attention, I'm going to take these things away from you. And so all of a sudden, yeah, the cash flow stopped and the money stopped. And I had to really look at, wow, why am I doing this? And what am I doing this for? And I had to really come back to a place of remembering. And so a lot of times, yeah, it's everything's falling apart, and you're just kind of going like this until you really settle and surrender into it. It's really uncomfortable.
So, how are you feeling now? Is there something? Did you learn, like, what are the insights that you gained when? Um, because is that something? Was there something expected? Actually, did you have that concept in your mind that life is static and we could reach a point and then stay there? Did you have that belief system, or you never had the belief system and now you're just learning how to almost like dance with that too? That life is always flowing. It could go either way.
I think the biggest thing that I've learned is, well, one, obviously, change is the only thing that I think we can really rely on, is that nothing will stay the same, right? The highs will not stay high, the lows will not stay low. You're like, everything is always going to change no matter how much we don't want it to. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned, I suppose, after going through, I mean, none of this for the last 5 years has been easy. What I do really feel though is that what pain, any kind of pain in our life, anytime we're experiencing some kind of pain in our life, it's like that's sort of that catalyst, and that's the pivotal point of where we are being called to transform, right? It's like the pain is coming in so that we are forced to transform and to grow and to shift and to change. And so whenever there's pain in my life, I'm always looking at it as, where am I stuck? Where am I not growing? Where am I not listening? Where am I not paying attention? And what is trying to change and course correct in my life? And really trying to stay open constantly in all areas of my life, and really staying of faith and of trust, I think has been so important to me. But pain is always, I think it always has a purpose. And I think it's always to help us to really expand into that next evolution of ourselves.
Yeah, that's true. I love the way you say that too. The evolution of oneself. Yes. Is that your vision now for the idea of growth, the concept of growing, evolving, to be open? Is that something that you would say?
Yeah, I think, yeah, being open for sure. Um, I think being open to change, I guess yeah, for me it's definitely being open and trusting, like taking steps that feel right without knowing where it's leading, right? Like I think we're really guided intuitively to take certain steps, but we don't know why or where it's going. And I think it's really important to follow those little intuitive hits and take those steps that you're being called to take.
Yes. I mean, this is something that it feels like it's easier for women to do, to listen to their intuition and to let it flow. You only work with women, Erica, or do
I
you
do.
sometimes work with men too?
Well, men, yeah, I my business building programs are women, but my purpose program, men have gone through my purpose program. I have coached men through that. Men, yeah, that is definitely a space where men have gone to. And it's usually a man who is on the verge of awakening. They're recognizing that the way that they're moving through the world isn't working for them anymore. They're really wanting to heal that the wounded masculine and even really tap into the feminine as well, or the wounded feminine. And it's definitely for a man who is more on a personal development journey or a spiritual growth path. But yes, many men have gone through my Awaken Your Purpose program.
Since you mentioned the feminine and masculine, I have heard a lot about the sacred feminine and the divine sacred feminine. What is that like? How would you describe those two aspects of being for men? Is that yeah? I would love to hear from you. What is your idea of those two aspects?
I mean, I guess I've experienced it in different ways. And I think what if you would have asked me this question 5 years ago, it probably would have been very different than it is now. But I really think that I mean, I know that we all have masculine energies, we all have feminine energies, and I think a lot of it shifts and changes as we grow and change. And I think there's periods of our life where we are more in the masculine. So like, let's say you're starting a business and there you have to do the work, you have to put in the work, you might have to work longer hours. Maybe you're starting a business while you're working a job and while you're being a mom to your kids too. That's really you being in your masculine energy, when it's the to-do lists and the productiveness and the getting things done. And then I think, balancing that with the feminine energy of really trusting your intuition and being in the flow. And there are times also where your feminine energy, I think, is more at play. So for me right now, not necessarily being in the business growth phase, I'm more in the creative space with my book coming out and how can I connect with people. And it's more intuitive and it's more of a feminine flow that my business and my life are in right now. And that's not always the case.
I read on your website something about, yeah, I think it was a fun fact about you.
Oh,
One of those, and you are a single mother. I know you have two
yes,
children.
I
And
do.
then I never ask personal questions here. For some reason, it's just I like more universal everything than personal.
Yeah.
But it just keep asking me to ask this question, intuitively wants to ask. So I'll ask.
Yes. Yes.
I know you divorced and you said a single mother. Are you in a relationship now, or is that something that are you traumatized about it?
No, that is a great. I love this question. I love this question. Thank you for asking. So very, as of recently, yes, I am in a relationship
Ah,
now.
good.
How, thank you.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been 5 years though. It was 5 years of me being single and exploring, being very alone, very alone. I did date here and there. I actually, I was really, I think when I got married, I was young. I was 27, 28. I was 28, 27 when I met my husband, 30 when I got married. And I was in the space of, at the time, really looking for a man to save me. Like I was that wounded girl looking for a man to save me, and I wanted him to take care of me and protect me. And that was never an energy that anyone wants to enter a marriage. I completely chose the wrong person. It was just not, yeah, it was honestly 13 years of just not greatness. And so when I came out of my marriage, it was, part of me after my cancer experience was learning who I am, and what, what does even relationship mean to me, and what does partnership mean to me, and do I even want that in my life? Do I believe in marriage? Do I believe in monogamy? Do I, I even dated a woman. I just really wanted to know myself, and through those 5 years I was not ready to commit to somebody because I didn't know myself to the level that I wanted to before I was ready to align my life with another person's. So it's been quite the journey.
Yes, gosh, I love that. You see, this investigation, this courage to explore and not be afraid of finding out what we are about and what fits better. It's almost like a matching type of thing. So
Yeah.
now with the experience you have, Erica, What makes a great relationship?
I did not understand what compatibility was. So until I didn't understand what compatibility was until now. I think, for him, actually, for him and I, we both separately had done our work. He was divorced for about 3 years. So we were both doing our own spiritual work. We were both on our own personal development journey. And both of us had worked with our therapist, and we'd both written lists of what we really wanted in a partner, what our non-negotiables were, what were our must-haves, what were our absolute nots. And when we met, it was like this really amazing thing where we both just had everything that we wanted on our list. And for both of us, spiritual growth, the desire to grow together and as individuals was at the top of our list. And so I think, really finding someone where that's a priority of theirs was so important to me. And so for me, it's like, what are your non-negotiables, and what are your must-haves, and just rather be alone also than with the wrong person. I think that was something that was really important that him and I both had to come to, was we both would have rather been alone than with the wrong person. And I still feel that way today.
Yes, that's a very powerful insight. With the wrong person, which means somebody who's causing more suffering
Yes.
than anything else. Not really, there's no growth there. Yeah, that really makes sense to me. Although I
Yeah.
have heard that our relationships are our greatest teachers. I have heard that too. So it's okay.
Well, I do. I mean, you do grow in relationships, right? And I mean, every relationship that I was in until now, there is so much that I took from that. And my marriage, there was a lot that I learned by being in that marriage, right? And I think it's like, I also know now what I don't want. And I learned there was a lot of parts of me that I needed to heal from my childhood that I felt I did in that marriage for a lot of different reasons. Not the reasons that you would think, but through a lot of pain that was in that marriage. I think you're right. We do learn and grow and evolve in relationships. And I think different relationships serves our lives at different times too.
I love some of the quotes you have on your page too. There's one from, I don't know who she is, Cheryl Strayed.
Oh
Is that her
yeah,
name?
she's
I
an
don't know who
author.
Yeah, I like that. She said life's greatest tragedy and people's greatest regret is their final days is that they left fear win. They choose to play it safe rather than live out who they truly are. I love that. I had to have that here because it resonated with me, being getting to know yourself. So I guess we're almost at the end. I would love for you to talk to me about your services at this time, Eric. I know you're hosting the event coming up. This interview will be published in 2 to 3 weeks, so it might not be on time for that. But talk to me about the other services you have. The book's coming up. I know you have the Soul
Yes.
Business Accelerator. Yet, just in case I don't get everything.
Yeah, the book is coming out. So, Awaken Your Purpose is coming out. There's a course that goes along with that, but everything is on my website, just ericacarrico.com under Work With Me. There's Awaken Your Purpose. There's a business building course to build your business. And then there's the option to work with me in a one on one capacity as well.
So before we say goodbye, we're not done yet. I have a question that I always ask everyone. I'll ask you this question. This platform is titled The Freedom to Feel for a reason. That's something that I came to realize after interviewing so many amazing people. But what is your idea of freedom as of today?
What is to be free? I think to be able to move through the world in the way that you desire to move through the world.
Gosh, Erica, yes. Yes, a billion times to that. There's no limits in a way, right, Erica? We can always grow and find different kinds of freedom in a way. I don't know.
I think so. Yeah, I think there's this business term, and I think it really I think it's not a spiritual way of saying it, but it's a very true, I think, way of saying it. In business, they always say it's new level, new devil. And I really think that it's like the soul goes through that too, It's always going to be something that's going to, take you to the next level. And it's just, yeah, it's true in business and it's true in life.
Is there anything that you left unsaid that you'd like to be here that you wanted to bring to the conversation at the end?
I don't think so. I think the only thing would just be that, just for anyone who is listening, just remember that your voice matters and your story counts, and what you have been through in your life is for a reason. And I really think that you can turn that into whatever you want to turn it into. And I think everybody here has a purpose and everybody's here for a reason. And the sooner that you can really tap into that, I think obviously the better, but the more freedom that you'll find, the more love that you'll find, the more health that you'll find, the more abundance that you'll find. So really looking at that as a form of healing as well is remembering why you're here and really knowing who you are at soul level.
So thank you again for your beautiful presence, and we'll talk soon. We'll be in touch
Thank
again. Bye
you.
for now.
Thank you
Bye
so
for now,
much.
Erica. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.